The dust rose behind the Ford F-150, like a ghost unwilling to let go. Calla Vance kept her eyes on the gravel road ahead, both hands steady on the wheel jaw, set in the way it had been for 2 years now. The kind of set that said she wasn't running, just relocating. There was a difference even if no one else could see it. Beside her in the passenger seat, Sentinel sat with military posture, ears forward, eyes scanning the tree line like they were back in Ramadi checking rooftops. 7 years old now, gray creeping into the black fur around his muzzle, still sharp, still watching. The sign for Ironwood passed on the right. Population 847, elevation 3,200 feet. No welcome, no friendly tagline, just the facts. That suited Calla fine. 43 years of her life had been dedicated to facts. Facts like Lieutenant Commander Calla Vance, one of the first female Navy SEALs enlisted 2001, completed BUD/S training 2003. Fact, 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Syria. Fact, retired 2022 after an incident no one wanted to talk about. And the final fact, the one that mattered most, she had $40,000 left. 40 acres of Oregon scrubland, waiting and absolutely nowhere else to go. The road narrowed as it climbed into the mountains. Ironwood sat in a valley between ridges thick with Douglas fir and ponderosa pine, the kind of place logging built and abandonment perfected. The houses that appeared through the trees looked tired, peeling paint, sagging porches, trucks older than their owners. Calla slowed as the road opened into what passed for a downtown. One main street, a post office the size of a garden shed, a gas station with pumps that probably still had rotating numbers. And there on the corner, a diner with a hand-painted sign that read, Opal's Rest in faded red letters. Her stomach reminded her she hadn't eaten since Baker City 6 hours back. She pulled into the gravel lot and killed the engine. The silence hit immediately. No traffic, no voices, just wind moving through pine needles and the distant sound of water somewhere beyond the ridge. Sentinel's ears swiveled toward the diner door. Yeah, Calla said. I know, let's see if they're friendly. The bell above the door announced them with a cheerful jingle that felt out of place. Inside the diner smelled like coffee that had been on the burner too long and fryer oil that had seen better days. 4 booths lined the windows. A counter with 8 stools ran along the back. Every surface was clean, but nothing was new. This was a place held together by habit, not hope. A woman in her late 50s stood behind the counter, hair steel gray, and pulled into a bun so tight it looked painful. She had the kind of face that had learned not to smile first. Help you, she asked. Coffee, Calla said, and whatever's hot. The woman's eyes moved to Sentinel, who stood at parade rest beside Calla's leg. No tail wag. No friendly approach, just professional distance. He trained Navy K-9, Calla said. Bomb detection, retired. Something shifted in the woman's expression. Not quite warmth, but acknowledgement. I'm Opal. This is my place. You passing through or staying stupid? Calla felt the corner of her mouth twitch, almost a smile. Bought some land north of here, 40 acres near the old ridge. Opal poured coffee into a mug that had seen 1,000 refills. That'll be the Hendricks property. Been empty since '09. Land's cheap up there for a reason. What reason? Opal set the mug down, met Calla's eyes. People say it's cursed. Anyone who digs too deep up there tends to disappear. But that's just talk. Probably. She turned without waiting for a response and called through the kitchen window. Burger and fries, Opal special. Calla wrapped her hands around the mug, felt the heat seep into her palms. Across the diner, an old man in a Carhartt jacket watched her from a corner booth. Not hostile, just measuring. 10 minutes later, Opal returned with a plate and a small bowl. She set the burger in front of Calla and placed the bowl on the floor. 2 gas station hot dogs still steaming. Sentinel looked at the bowl, looked at Opal, then turned his head away with the slow, deliberate movement of a food critic who'd just been served gas station sushi. Opal's eyebrows rose. Well, excuse me for not having filet mignon. Calla bit down on a laugh, first one in weeks. He's particular. I can see that. Opal crossed her arms, but there was something almost like amusement in her eyes now. Your dog just judged my hospitality and found it wanting. He's had worse. He's just letting you know. Sentinel sat back down, gaze fixed on the window, professional dignity intact. The old man in the corner booth chuckled into his coffee. Calla ate quickly, paid in cash, and left a tip bigger than the meal. Outside, the afternoon sun slanted through the pines, turning the dust gold. She stood beside her truck for a moment, breathing air that tasted like sap and distance. Not much of a town, she said to Sentinel, but it'll do. The drive to her property took 15 minutes on roads that went from paved to gravel to dirt to suggestion. The final half mile was barely a track, weeds growing up the center branches scraping both sides of the truck. Then the trees opened up. 40 acres of rolling scrubland stretched before her, bordered by pine forest on 3 sides and a rocky ridge on the 4th. No buildings, no power lines, no people, just land and sky and the kind of quiet that made city people nervous. Calla stepped out. Sentinel jumped down beside her, immediately moving into patrol mode, nose to the ground, circling outward in expanding arcs. She'd bought this place sight unseen from a lawyer's office in Portland. As is, the paper said. No utilities, no improvements, no guarantees. Perfect. From the truck bed, she pulled her gear. Military surplus tent, sleeping bag rated to 20 below, camp stove, water filtration system. Everything she owned fit in 4 duffel bags and 2 plastic bins. 21 years of Navy life had taught her to pack light and move fast. The tent went up in 12 minutes. Not her best time, but not bad for being out of practice. Sentinel sat 15 feet away watching. When Calla stepped back to check her work, she saw what he saw. The tent sagged on the left side one corner, stake at the wrong angle, the rainfly twisted like it was trying to escape. She looked at Sentinel. He tilted his head slowly. The canine equivalent of, "Really, this is your standard." "It's fine," Calla said. Sentinel's head tilted further. "It's functional." One ear drooped. "Okay, it's a disaster. Happy." Sentinel walked to the tent and sat directly in front of the sagging corner, then looked back at her with an expression that would have made a drill sergeant proud. Calla sighed and started over. 20 minutes later, the tent stood properly, rainfly taut, stakes at regulation angles. Sentinel gave a single tail thump of approval and returned to his patrol. The sun was touching the ridge when he stopped. Calla was unpacking her cooking gear, thinking about coffee and how much she'd overpaid for this land when Sentinel's behavior changed. Not dramatic, just a shift. Ears forward, tail low and still, body rigid. She recognized that posture. It was the same stance he'd taken outside a compound in Ramadi 3 seconds before the wall exploded. The same stance that had saved her life in 2017 and haunted her ever since because she'd ignored it once, just once, and made the call to proceed anyway. Her hands stopped moving. "What is it, boy?" Sentinel didn't look back. He was locked onto something beyond the tent, past the clearing into the tree line, where the land started to slope upward toward the rocky ridge. Calla stood slowly. Her right hand moved automatically to her hip to where her sidearm used to ride. Found nothing. Civilian now. No weapon. No backup. No mission. Except Sentinel was telling her there was. She walked toward him, boots crunching on the mix of dirt and pine needles. When she reached his position, she crouched down following his sightline. At first, she saw nothing. Just trees. Shadows. The ridge rising dark against the dimming sky. Then her eyes adjusted. There was something wrong with the rocks. 30 yards into the tree line at the base of the ridge, a formation of boulders sat in a pattern that almost looked natural. Almost. But the angles were wrong. Too uniform. Too deliberate. "See it," she whispered. Sentinel's tail gave the smallest twitch. Affirmative. Calla stood, grabbed her flashlight from the tent, and started forward. Sentinel moved beside her, not ahead, maintaining a tactical spacing. Old habits. The ground rose as they entered the forest. Roots twisted across the path like tripwires. Branches caught at her jacket. The smell of the pines intensified, mixing with something else. Something older. Concrete and rust. She reached the boulder formation and stopped. Up close, it was obvious. These weren't natural rocks. They were broken pieces of concrete stacked and arranged to look like natural stone covered in 40 years of moss and lichen and careful neglect. Calla played her flashlight across the surface, saw the seams, saw where weather had worn away the disguise. And there, barely visible beneath the overgrowth, she saw the edge of something that definitely didn't belong in a forest. A doorframe. Steel. Rusted orange, but still solid. Her heart kicked up. Not fear. Something else. Recognition. The feeling of finding something that didn't want to be found. She pulled away the smaller rocks, the moss, the branches someone had carefully arranged. Sentinel circled the area, nose working, reading a story written in sense Calla would never understand. 5 minutes of work revealed the truth. A concrete slab 6 feet wide and 4 feet tall set into the hillside. In its center, a steel door with hinges the size of her fist. No handle, no lock visible. Just a door that had been sealed and hidden and forgotten. Or maybe not forgotten, maybe just buried. Calla pressed her hand against the concrete. Cold, solid, real. "What the hell is this?" she said aloud. Sentinel gave a low rumble, not a growl, more like a confirmation. Yes, this. Pay attention. The door was locked, but the frame had separated from the concrete over decades of freezing and thawing. Calla went back to the truck, got her pry bar and returned. Took her 15 minutes of leverage and swearing, but the door finally gave. It swung inward with a groan that sounded like something waking up. Cold air rushed out. Not the fresh cold of mountain air, the stale cold of spaces that hadn't breathed in years. It smelled like concrete and rust and something else. Something chemical and wrong. Calla shined her flashlight inside. A tunnel. Concrete walls. Sloping downward into darkness. Old electrical conduit ran along the ceiling, wires long dead. The floor was smooth concrete marked with the kind of wear that comes from regular use, not abandonment. Someone had built this, used this, and then sealed it so thoroughly that 40 years of forest growth had nearly erased it completely. Sentinel moved to the entrance, sniffed once and backed up 2 steps. His ears went flat. Not fear, caution. The same signal he'd given in Iraq when he detected explosives. "I know," Calla said quietly. "I don't like it either." But she was going in. 21 years in the Navy had trained her to run toward danger, not away from it. Some habits were harder to break than others. The tunnel descended at a gentle angle, 20 feet down into the hillside. Calla's flashlight beam bounced off walls that showed water stains and mineral deposits, but no graffiti, no trash, no signs of casual trespass. Whoever had sealed this place had done it so well that even local kids hadn't found it. The air grew colder with each step. Her breath fogged. Sentinel stayed close right at her hip, moving in perfect tactical sync. At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a room. Calla swept her light across the space. 12 feet by 12 feet. Concrete floor, concrete walls, concrete ceiling. In one corner, a steel desk sat bolted to the floor, its surface covered in a fine layer of dust. A metal filing cabinet leaned against the far wall, one drawer hanging open like a mouth. And covering the desk tacked to the walls, spread across every available surface, were maps. Documents, photographs. The accumulated evidence of something someone had desperately tried to preserve. Calla approached, slowly aware that she was walking into someone's secret, someone's last stand. The maps were geological surveys dated 1991 showing Ironwood Valley in topographic detail. 3 locations were circled in red marker. All 3 were labeled primary well, secondary well, emergency well, the town's water sources. Beneath the maps, manila folders lay in neat rows. Calla opened the first one. Inside, a title page read, Redwood Industries, Chemical Disposal Assessment 1984 to 1993. She turned the page, saw columns of numbers, chemical names she recognized from hazmat training. Trichloroethylene, perchloroethylene, benzene, and next to each name, concentration levels measured in parts per billion. The numbers were highlighted in red. All of them were hundreds of times higher than EP safety limits. Calla's hands went still. She read the document twice to make sure she understood. Someone had tested Ironwood's water, had found contamination levels that should have triggered immediate evacuation, and then had hidden the results in a concrete bunker in the woods. Number. Not hidden to bury, hidden to preserve. She turned to the photographs tacked above the desk. Polaroids faded but still clear. A man in his early 50s wearing an EP, a field jacket, standing next to water sampling equipment. Glasses, kind eyes. The look of someone who'd devoted his life to doing things right. On the back of one photo, handwritten in neat block letters, Dr. Silas Whitmore, EPA field geologist. August 1993. Calla's throat tightened. Beside the photographs, a small cassette recorder sat on the desk. Sony TCM 200DV, the kind field researchers used in the 90s. The battery compartment was open, the batteries long dead. She pulled fresh batteries from her jacket pocket, always carried them. Old habit from missions where dead batteries could mean dead soldiers. The recorder clicked on. The tape was still inside, wound to the middle. Calla pressed play. Static hissed for 3 seconds. Then a voice. Male. Tired. Frightened. August 17th, 1993. This is Dr. Silas Whitmore, EPA field geologist, recording for, I don't know, for whoever finds this, for evidence, for good maybe. The voice paused. Calla heard breathing. Heard the sound of hands shaking against the microphone. I sent water samples to 3 independent laboratories. Portland, Seattle, Sacramento. All 3 confirmed what I already knew. trichloroethylene concentrations of 38,000 parts per billion in all three wells serving Ironwood. The EPA limit is 100. We're measuring levels 380 times the safe limit. A sound like papers rustling. Redwood Industries has known since 1985. I found the buried reports, 6 of them, all showing contamination, all stamped with recommendations to notify the EPA and evacuate. None of them were ever filed. They just disappeared. Another pause. Longer this time. They threatened my family. Said if I went public, they'd make sure my daughter grew up without a father. I sent Linnea to my sister's in Bend. She's safe there. She's only 8. She won't understand why I didn't come home. Calla's jaw clenched. I'm hiding in the old bunker where Redwood buried their chemical drums in '84. The irony isn't lost on me. I've documented everything. If I disappear, someone needs to find a sound, sharp, like a door slamming open. Dr. Whitmore's voice changed instantly. Higher. Panicked. Wait, I can explain. Hands up now. Scuffling. The microphone hitting something hard. A cry of pain. Then voices distant, arguing. Calla couldn't make out words, just tone, anger, urgency. A final sound, something heavy being dragged. Then silence. The tape hissed for another 10 seconds before clicking off. Calla stood in the concrete room, hands still on the recorder, pulse hammering in her ears. 31 years ago, a man had died trying to save 800 people, and someone had made sure no one ever knew. Sentinel pressed against her leg, warm, solid, present. She looked down at him. We found something we weren't supposed to find. His tail twitched once. Affirmative. Calla gathered her flashlight, took photos of everything with her phone, and carefully rewound the tape. The recorder went into her jacket pocket. The maps and documents she left where they were. Evidence, crime scene. Whatever this was, it needed to be preserved exactly as Dr. Whitmore had left it. Outside, full dark had fallen. Stars pressed close in the clear mountain air, more than Calla had seen in years. The kind of stars that reminded you how small you were, how brief. She sealed the bunker door as best she could and covered it again with branches and moss. Not hiding it, just protecting it until she knew what to do next. The walk back to her tent felt longer than it should have. Every shadow seemed to watch. Every sound carried weight. At the tent, Sentinel circled 3 times and lay down at the entrance. Guard position. He hadn't done that since Iraq. Calla sat on her sleeping bag, the recorder in her hands, and stared at nothing. She'd come here to disappear, to find a place quiet enough that the voices from Ramadi might finally fade. The voices of Petty Officer Sarah Brennan and Sergeant Mike Torres, both dead because she'd ignored Sentinel's warning in 2017 and ordered the breach anyway. She'd come here to hide from responsibility, and instead she'd found 800 people drinking poison water and a dead man whose last act had been leaving evidence for someone brave enough to use it. The universe had a terrible sense of humor. Sentinel's ear twitched. He was watching her amber eyes reflecting starlight. I know what you're thinking, Calla said quietly. We should walk away. Not our mission, not our problem. Sentinel didn't move. But you won't let me, will you? His tail gave the smallest wag, just the tip, barely visible. Calla exhaled slowly. Yeah, that's what I thought. She lay back staring at the tent ceiling. Tomorrow she'd go into town. Find out what happened to Dr. Silas Whitmore. Find out if his daughter Linnea was still looking for answers. Find out if 800 people deserved to know they'd been drinking poison for 39 years. Sleep came slowly, broken by dreams of concrete bunkers and voices on tape recorders, and a little girl named Linnea who'd grown up wondering why her father never came home. When Calla woke, dawn was breaking cold and clear over the ridge. Sentinel sat at the tent entrance, exactly where he'd been the night before, frost on his fur breath steaming. Still on watch, still waiting for her to make the right choice. She reached out, scratched behind his ears. Okay, boy, we're staying, at least long enough to figure this out. His tail thumped twice. Approval. Calla packed light, recorder, phone, notebook. Left the tent standing. This wasn't a mission you completed in a day. The drive into Ironwood took 20 minutes. The town looked different in morning light. Still tired, still poor. But now Calla saw it differently. Saw the people walking to work, the kids waiting for a school bus, the old men drinking coffee at Opal's Rest. 847 people, the sign had said. 847 lives built on contaminated ground. She parked at the library, a brick building from the 60s, American flag hanging limp in the still air. The door was unlocked. Inside smelled like old books and carpet that needed replacing. A young woman at the front desk looked up, surprise clear on her face. Probably didn't get many visitors. Help you find something, she asked. Local newspaper archives, Calla said. 1993. The woman pointed to a back room. Microfiche. Everything before 2000 is on film. Machine's old, but it works, usually. The room was small and dark and smelled like dust. The microfiche reader hummed when Calla turned it on screen, flickering to life with the pale green glow of obsolete technology. She loaded the film for August 1993 and started scrolling. Local news, timber prices, high school football, someone's golden anniversary, the mundane record of a small town's small concerns. Then on August 22nd, a short article. No photo. Bottom of page 3. Local EPA researcher missing. Dr. Silas Whitmore, 52 of Ironwood, has been reported missing by his wife Ellen. Dr. Whitmore, employed by the Environmental Protection Agency as a field geologist, was last seen on August 19th conducting routine water quality assessments. His vehicle was found abandoned near Forest Service Road 47. Sheriff's Department is investigating. Anyone with information should contact authorities. Mrs. Whitmore reported her husband had been suffering from severe depression in recent weeks. Calla read it 3 times. Saw what wasn't there. No mention of what he'd been investigating. No mention of Redwood Industries. No mention of contamination. Just a depressed man who'd walked into the woods and disappeared. She scrolled forward, found a follow-up article in September. 1 paragraph. Search for missing researcher suspended. No evidence of foul play. Case remains open. Then nothing. The story died as completely as the man. Calla leaned back, jaw tight. This was how you buried truth. Not with lies, just with silence. With leaving things unsaid. With letting grief and time do the work of erasure. Behind her, a voice said, "You're looking for my father." Calla spun. A woman stood in the doorway, late 30s, red hair pulled back, eyes that had spent years searching for answers and finding none. Linnea Whitmore, Calla asked. Linnea Whitmore Brennan now, but yes. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. I've been tracking who looks at these archives for 20 years. Not many people care about missing EPAA researchers from 1993. Who are you? Calla stood. Lieutenant Commander Calla Vance, Navy, retired. I bought land north of here. Found something I think belonged to your father. Linnea's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened. What did you find? A bunker, hidden, full of water contamination data, and a tape recorder. Linnea's breath caught. Just for a second, then she was moving, closing the distance between them. You have the tape. Calla pulled it from her pocket, held it out. Linnea's hands shook as she took it. I was 8 when he disappeared. They told me he'd had a breakdown, that he'd walked into the forest and given up. I never believed it. My father was the most careful man I ever knew. He didn't give up. He wouldn't abandon me. He didn't abandon you, Calla said quietly. He was protecting you. The tape explains everything. Can I hear it? Calla hesitated. It's not easy to listen to. Nothing about the last 31 years has been easy. I can handle one more hard thing. They sat in that dim room microfiche machine, humming, and Calla played the tape. Watched Linnea's face as her father's voice filled the space. Watched tears track down her cheeks when the scuffle started. Watched her hands clench when the tape went silent. When it ended, Linnea sat very still. I knew, she whispered. I always knew someone killed him. But no one would listen. The sheriff said he was depressed. The EPA said he was thorough but troubled. Redwood Industries said they'd never heard of any contamination issues. Everyone just wanted to forget. She looked up at Calla. 800 people live here. How many of them are drinking poisoned water right now? All of them. According to your father's data, all 3 wells are contaminated. Have been since 1985. Linnea stood abruptly, walked to the window, stared out at the quiet street. That's why the cancer rates are so high. I've been documenting it for years. Lung cancer, kidney cancer, brain tumors. 7 times the state average. I thought it was the old lumber mill. Everyone thought it was the lumber mill. But it's the water. It's always been the water. She turned back. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, Calla admitted. I came here to hide, not to start a war. Hiding is a choice, Linnea said. So is fighting. My father chose fighting. It killed him. But it also left evidence, left hope, left a tape for someone to find. She held out the recorder. Someone just found it. Calla took it back, felt its weight. This goes public. Redwood will come after you, after me, after anyone who threatens their bottom line. Let them come. I've been waiting 31 years for this fight. Outside, Sentinel barked once. Sharp, alert. Calla moved to the window. A black SUV sat across the street, tinted windows reflecting morning sun. No plates visible, no markings. Just watching. When did that show up? Calla asked. Linnea checked. Wasn't there 5 minutes ago? The SUV's window rolled down. A man in his late 40s looked directly at the library. Sunglasses, suit, the kind of calculated casual that costs money to achieve. He raised a phone, took a photo. The window rolled back up, message delivered. They know, Calla said flatly. Of course they know. Redwood has owned this town for 40 years. They know everything. The SUV pulled away, slow, unhurried. No need to rush when you own the game. Calla's jaw set. That look again. The one that said she'd made a decision and God help anyone who got in the way. I need to see your father's full research, everything you have. Linnea smiled, not happy, dangerous. Follow me. They walked 3 blocks to a small house with peeling paint and a garden that had given up years ago. Inside, the living room had been converted into a research center. Maps covered the walls. Filing cabinets lined every available space. A corkboard held dozens of photographs connected by red string. The obsession of someone who'd spent her whole adult life searching for truth. Linnea pulled a thick binder from a shelf. Medical records. I had to file Freedom of Information requests for 2 years to get these. Cancer diagnoses in Ironwood, 1985 to 2023. She opened it. Page after page of names, dates, diagnoses, deaths. 47 cancer cases in a town of 847 people. National average is 0.8%, Linnea said. We're at 5.5%. And it's not random. Look at the timeline. She pointed to a chart. The cancer rate was flat until 1985. Then it spiked, stayed high for 38 years. 85 was when Redwood started burying chemical drums, Calla said. Exactly. My father figured that out. That's why they killed him. A sound outside. Footsteps on the porch. Sentinel growled, low, serious. Calla moved to the window. The same black SUV sat in front of the house. The door opened. 2 men stepped out. Not cops, not feds. Private security. The kind corporations hired when law enforcement wasn't quite dirty enough. A knock at the door. Polite. Patient. Linnea looked at Calla. They've never come to my house before. They're escalating, Calla said. We're not hiding anymore. We're a threat. Another knock, harder this time. Calla opened the door 6 inches, kept her body in the gap. Sentinel pressed against her leg, hackles raised. The man in front was late 40s, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. He had the look of someone who'd spent his life learning how to threaten people without ever raising his voice. Ms. Whitmore, he said pleasantly. I'm Harlan Thorne, legal consultant for Redwood Industries. I was hoping we could have a conversation. Not interested, Linnea called from inside. Thorne's smile didn't flicker. I understand, but I think it would be in everyone's best interest, especially yours, Commander Vance. Calla felt ice run down her spine. He knew her name, her rank, probably her entire service record. How did you? We're very thorough. Thorne glanced at Sentinel. Beautiful dog, German Shepherd if I'm not mistaken, military trained. I imagine you two have been through quite a lot together. The threat was so subtle, it was almost elegant. Calla's hand moved to Sentinel's collar. Say what you came to say. Simple. You bought land near some historically sensitive areas. Redwood Industries would like to purchase that land from you. Generous offer, $450,000 for 40 acres. That's more than 10 times what you paid. Not for sale. I'd reconsider. The land has some issues, environmental complications, legal entanglements. We'd hate for you to get caught up in something messy. Behind him, the second man shifted. Calla clocked it automatically. 6'2", 220, right-handed, jacket cut to hide a shoulder holster. That sounds like a threat, Calla said evenly. Just friendly advice. From one professional to another. Some battles aren't worth fighting, especially when you're outnumbered, outspent, and very, very alone. Sentinel's growl deepened. First time Calla had heard that sound in 2 years. The sound he made when he detected something lethal. Thorne's smile finally faded. Think about it. We'll be in touch. He walked back to the SUV and drove away. Slow. No hurry. Men who knew they were winning didn't need to rush. Calla closed the door, locked it, checked the windows. Linnea stood in the center of her research room, surrounded by 31 years of evidence, and laughed. Not happy, not scared, something else entirely. They're scared, she said. For the first time in my entire life, Redwood Industries is scared. They've ignored me for 3 decades. Now they're showing up at my door. Why? Because we're not just asking questions anymore, Calla said. We have proof, the tape, your father's data, the medical records. All we need is someone to verify it, make it official. I can do that. I've been freelancing for Oregon Public Broadcasting for 5 years. I have contacts at the EPA, at the FBI. If we can prove contamination, if we can prove Redwood knew and covered it up, they go to prison. The town gets cleaned up. Your father gets vindicated. Linnea nodded. But first we need to get all the evidence out of that bunker. Photos aren't enough. We need the original documents. Chain of custody. Everything that will hold up in court. Tonight, Calla said, after dark, just you, me, and Sentinel, no one else. Agreed. The afternoon crawled by. Calla returned to her property, checked her gear, tried not to think about the fact that she'd been in Ironwood less than 48 hours and had already made powerful enemies. Sentinel spent the day on patrol, circling, watching, preparing. At 7 p.m. Calla's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Emergency broadcast. Child missing. Finn Calloway, age 9, last seen near Forest Service Road 47 at 2 p.m. Search party forming at fire station. All volunteers welcome. Calla stared at the message. Forest Service Road 47. The same road where Dr. Whitmore's car had been found 31 years ago. Coincidence. Had to be. Except Sentinel had stopped moving. Was staring toward the ridge. Toward the forest. Body rigid. Ears forward. Not coincidence. Calla grabbed her pack. Show me. Sentinel took off running. The sun was setting as they entered the forest, turning the pine needles gold and the shadows long. Sentinel moved like he was tracking nose down, following a scent only he could detect. Calla kept pace. 21 years in special operations had taught her how to run through rough terrain without breaking an ankle. This was just another mission. Just another extraction. Except this was a child. 9 years old. Alone in the forest as temperature dropped toward freezing. They ran for 2 hours. Deep into the national forest. Away from roads. Away from people. Into the kind of wild where mistakes became tragedies. Then Sentinel stopped. Barked once. Sharp. Urgent. Calla caught up, breathing hard. Ahead, a narrow gap between 2 boulders. Barely visible in the failing light. Finn, she called. My name is Calla. I'm here to help. Are you here? A sound. Faint. Like crying that had run out of strength. Calla pulled out her flashlight, squeezed through the gap. A boy sat curled against the rock. 9 years old. Blonde hair. Face streaked with tears and dirt. Right ankle swollen to twice its normal size. Hey, Calla said softly. I'm Calla. This is Sentinel. We're going to get you home. Finn looked up, eyes red, voice hoarse. It hurts. No, let me look. She examined the ankle. Sprained, not broken. Painful, but not life-threatening. She pulled an elastic bandage from her pack, wrapped it firmly. Can you walk? Finn tried, whimpered, shook his head. Okay, then I'll carry you. Sentinel will lead us out. You're safe now. She lifted him carefully, felt his arms wrap around her neck. Light, fragile, the weight of trust. The walk back took 3 hours. Sentinel navigated by memory and instinct, finding paths Calla would have missed. The boy fell asleep against her shoulder, exhaustion, finally overwhelming fear. By the time they reached the fire station, a crowd had gathered. Parents, volunteers, sheriff's deputies, all of them looking scared and helpless. Then someone shouted. They found him. A man broke from the crowd, late 30s, carpenter's build, eyes wild with hope and terror. Finn, Calla handed the boy to his father. Watch the man collapse to his knees, holding his son, sobbing. Thank you, he managed. Thank you, he's all I have left. My wife passed last year. If I'd lost him too, He couldn't finish. Calla knelt beside them. He's going to be fine. Just a sprained ankle. Let the paramedics check him out. What happened to your wife? The question was out before Calla could stop it. The man looked up. Cancer, lung cancer. She was 34, never smoked a day in her life. Doctors couldn't explain it. Calla felt something cold settle in her stomach. I'm sorry. We'd lived here our whole lives, both of us. Finn was born here. This was supposed to be home, safe, but it took her anyway. He carried his son toward the ambulance. Calla stood in the parking lot surrounded by people celebrating the rescue and thought about poisoned water and buried evidence in 39 years of silent murder. Sentinel moved to her side, a solid reminder she wasn't alone. She looked down at him. "We're not leaving, are we?" His tail swept once across the ground. "Yeah, that's what I thought." They walked back to the truck. The crowd parted to let them through. Someone tried to shake Calla's hand. She kept walking. At the truck, she sat in the driver's seat but didn't start the engine. Just sat. Sentinel in the passenger seat. Both of them staring at nothing. Finally, Calla spoke. "I came here to hide. To find somewhere quiet where the guilt couldn't find me. Where I wouldn't have to make choices that got people killed." Sentinel turned his head. Watched her. "But you won't let me hide. You keep finding things. Leading me to places I don't want to go. To choices I don't want to make." She reached over. Scratched behind his ears. "Sarah Brennan died because I didn't listen to you in Ramadi. Mike Torres died because I was too stubborn to trust your instincts. I swore I'd never ignore you again. Never put a mission above what you were trying to tell me." Sentinel leaned into her hand. "So if you're saying we need to stay, if you're saying these people need help, if you're saying we fight," she started the engine, "then we fight." The morning after finding Finn, Calla woke to frost coating the tent walls and Sentinel already on his feet staring toward the tree line. The kind of staring that meant something had changed overnight. Something had shifted in the equation. She checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Linnea. 2 text messages. The first read, "They know about the bunker. Someone was there last night." The second, "We need to move the evidence today." Calla dressed quickly, strapped on her boots, and drove into town with Sentinel riding shotgun, his attention fixed on the road ahead like he was scanning for ambush positions. Linnea's house looked the same from the outside. Peeling paint, dead garden, the unremarkable camouflage of someone who'd learned to hide in plain sight. But when Calla knocked, Linnea opened the door with eyes that hadn't seen sleep. "Come in, quickly." Inside the research room had been disturbed, not destroyed. Whoever had been here was too professional for that. But files sat slightly out of alignment. The corkboard with its web of red string had been photographed. She could tell from the way the light hit it differently. Someone had documented everything and left no trace except the knowledge that they'd been there. "They came in through the back window," Linnea said. "Sometime between midnight and 4 a.m. Didn't take anything. Didn't break anything. Just looked. Photographed. Let me know they could reach me whenever they wanted." Calla walked through the space reading the violation. This was psychological warfare, corporate style. "You file a police report. Sheriff's Department is in Redwood's pocket. Has been since the 80s. Filing a report would just tell them what we're planning next." Linnea poured coffee with hands that shook slightly. Not fear, anger. "I went to the bunker at dawn. The door was open. Not broken. Opened. Like they had a key." "Did they take anything?" "I don't know. I didn't go inside. I waited for you." Smart. Chain of custody mattered. Witnesses mattered. In a fight against corporate lawyers, every detail would be weaponized. They drove out to Calla's property in convoy. Linnea's ancient Subaru following Calla's truck up the degrading road. The forest felt different in daylight, less mysterious, more aware, like it was watching back. At the bunker entrance, Calla stopped. The camouflage of branches and moss had been removed and carefully restacked. Professional work. Someone with training. The steel door stood open 6 inches. Sentinel moved to point position, nose testing the air. His hackles rose. Not the explosive alert. Something else. Human scent. Recent. Calla pulled the door fully open and descended into the concrete tunnel with Linnea close behind. Their footsteps echoed in the enclosed space, a rhythm that felt like trespassing, even though this was technically Calla's land now. The bunker room at the bottom looked untouched at first glance. Maps still on the walls, filing cabinets still open, desk still covered in documents. Then Calla saw what was missing. The cassette recorder was gone. She checked the desk drawers, the filing cabinet. Under the desk. Nothing. Just the space where it had been outlined in dust. "They took the tape," Linnea said quietly. "The only recording of my father's voice explaining what he found. The only direct evidence of his investigation." Calla's jaw tightened. "We still have the documents, the water analysis, the maps. Documents can be challenged, called into question. My father's voice on that tape, the fear in it, the specificity that was going to be impossible to dismiss." Linnea sat down hard on the concrete floor. I had it for 6 hours. 6 hours of knowing my father's last words. And now it's gone again. Sentinel whined softly, not a distress sound. A notification. He was standing in the corner pawing at something. Calla crossed to him. At his feet, barely visible in the dust, was a business card. She picked it up. Heavy stock. Embossed lettering. Harlan Thorne, Strategic Consultant, Redwood Industries. He'd left it on purpose. Another message. We can take what we want, anytime we want. They're trying to demoralize us, Calla said. Make us feel powerless before we even start fighting. Is it working? Calla looked at the empty space where the recorder had been. Thought about Dr. Silas Whitmore recording his last message, thinking someone would find it, someone would care. Thought about that message being stolen by the same people who'd probably killed him. No, she said, it's not working. She pulled out her phone and started photographing everything, every document, every map, every notation in Dr. Whitmore's handwriting. If they couldn't have the original tape, they'd have every other piece of evidence preserved digitally backed up in 3 locations, impossible to steal without a warrant. Linnea joined her. They worked in silence for 2 hours documenting 31 years of buried truth. When they finished, Calla gathered the original documents into a waterproof case. These go to your contact at the EPA today, federal custody, beyond Redwood's reach. I'll drive to Portland. 3 hours. I can be there by noon. Take the back roads. Vary your speed. Watch for tails. Linnea smiled grimly. You're very good at this. I've had practice staying alive when people wanted me dead. They climbed out of the bunker together. Calla sealed the door, covered it again, made it look untouched. Not to hide it, to preserve it. Crime scene protocol. At the vehicles, Linnea paused. What will you do? What I should have done from the start. Talk to people, find out who else knows, build a case that can't be stolen from a bunker. Be careful. Redwood has been running this town for 40 years. They've had a long time to build leverage. So have the people they've been poisoning. Linnea drove away, documents secured in a locked case in her trunk. Calla watched until the Subaru disappeared around the bend, then turned to Sentinel. Time to make some friends. In the town looked different when you knew what to look for. Calla drove slowly down Main Street, counting businesses. 12 storefronts, half of them empty. The ones still open had the exhausted look of enterprises running on fumes and stubbornness. She parked at Opal's Rest and went inside. The lunch crowd filled 4 of the 8 booths. Conversation died when she entered the way it always did in small towns when strangers walked in. But this time recognition flickered. The woman who'd found the Callaway boy. Opal looked up from behind the counter. Commander, coffee. Please, and whatever soup you're serving. Opal poured, set the mug down with slightly less hostility than the first time. Heard you found Finn. Garrett hasn't stopped talking about it. Says you and your dog saved his son's life. Sentinel did the tracking. I just carried him out. Still counts. Opal ladled soup into a bowl, chicken vegetable. The real kind, not from a can. You settling in okay, Lan? Treating you right. Lan's fine. Found some interesting history up there, though. Opal's hand stilled for just a moment. That's so. Old bunker. Concrete. Hidden pretty well. Full of environmental research from the 90s. The diner went quiet. Not the quiet of people minding their business. The quiet of people actively listening while pretending not to. Opal set the soup down carefully. Some history is better left alone. No, wipe bombed on them. Because digging it up doesn't change anything, just makes people uncomfortable. An old man in the corner booth spoke up. She's talking about the Whitmore thing. That EPA fellow who went crazy back in '93. He didn't go crazy, Calla said evenly. He found evidence of water contamination and was killed for it. The silence deepened, became dangerous. A woman in her 60s sitting alone with coffee said, you ought to be careful making accusations like that. This is a small town. People talk. Good, they should talk. They should talk about the fact that their cancer rates are 7 times the state average. They should talk about why so many people die of lung cancer when nobody smokes anymore. That's the old lumber mill, someone else said. Everyone knows that. The lumber mill closed in 2005. Cancer rates haven't changed. What's the mill got to do with people dying in 2023? No one had an answer for that. Calla pulled out her phone, opened the photos she'd taken in the bunker. Turned the screen to face the room. This is Dr. Silas Whitmore's research. Water samples from your 3 wells. Trichloroethylene levels 380 times the EP, a safety limit. Dated 1993. Anyone want to guess what the levels are now? 31 years later. Opal's face had gone pale. You're saying our water is poisoned. I'm saying it's been poisoned since 1985 and nobody told you because Redwood Industries makes more money keeping quiet than cleaning it up. The old man stood up, angry now. You come into our town, you're here, 3 days, and you're accusing the only employer left of murder. I'm telling you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. My choice is you should leave. We don't need outsiders stirring up trouble. He threw money on the table and walked out. 3 other people followed, but 5 stayed seated, including the woman with coffee who met Cala's eyes and said, my husband died of kidney cancer. 62 years old, worked for Redwood his whole life. They said it was bad luck. My daughter, someone else said, leukemia, she was 16. My brother, brain tumor. One by one they shared their losses. The quiet litany of a town being slowly killed by the thing that was supposed to sustain it. Opal braced both hands on the counter. If what you're saying is true, if the water really is poisoned, why hasn't anyone tested it? Why hasn't the EPA done something? Because 31 years ago, the EPA sent someone to test it. Dr. Whitmore found the contamination and tried to report it. Redwood buried the report and buried him, made it look like he'd had a breakdown. And everyone believed it because it was easier than believing your employer was poisoning you. The woman with coffee stood up, walked over to Cala, extended her hand. I'm Patricia Morrison. My husband was Tom Morrison. He died 3 years ago. The doctors couldn't explain why a healthy man suddenly developed kidney failure. Cala shook her hand. Lieutenant Commander Cala Vance, I'm sorry for your loss. What do you need from us? Testimony, medical records. Anything that documents the health problems in this town. We're building a federal case. The more evidence we have, the harder it is for Redwood to dismiss. Patricia nodded. I'll talk to people, quietly. See who's willing to come forward. Be careful. Redwood has already broken into my associate's house. They stole evidence from the bunker. They're not going to let this go without a fight. 31 years, Patricia said. I've been wondering why Tom got sick. Wondering if it was something I cooked, something in the house, something I did wrong. If you're telling me it was the water, if you're telling me someone knew and let it happen anyway, then I don't care what kind of fight they want. I'm ready. Others nodded. The grief in that room was palpable, heavy, waiting for a target. Cala gave Patricia her number. Stay in groups. Don't meet alone. If anyone from Redwood approaches you, document everything. Record if you can. You've done this before. Different enemy, same tactics. As the group prepared to leave, one of the older men approached Sentinel with a dog treat he'd been saving. For the hero dog, he said, holding it out. Sentinel sniffed it, looked at the man, looked at the treat, then turned his head away with the slow, deliberate judgment of a food critic presented with gas station cuisine. The man blinked. It's organic. Sentinel's expression didn't change, not impressed. Patricia laughed, the first real laugh anyone had heard from her in months. I think your dog just told Frank his treats aren't up to military standards. He's very particular, Cala said. Clearly. Frank pocketed the treat, offended, but also amused. First time I've been judged by a German shepherd. Sentinel maintained his dignified silence, gaze fixed on the window, professional standards intact. Outside, the afternoon sun had shifted, throwing long shadows across Main Street. Sentinel waited by the truck, but his attention was fixed down the road. The black SUV sat 3 blocks away, watching. Cala climbed into the truck, started the engine, and drove slowly toward the SUV. Let them know she wasn't hiding, wasn't intimidated. As she passed, the SUV pulled out and followed. Not subtle, not trying to be, just a reminder that she was being monitored. She drove to the edge of town to where the pavement ended and Forest Service Road 47 began. The SUV stayed with her, maintaining a consistent distance. Professional surveillance. Then Cala turned onto a logging road barely wider than her truck. The SUV hesitated, then followed. The road climbed into dense forest switchbacks, getting tighter surface, degrading from gravel to dirt to mud. Cala knew these roads, had studied the maps, had spent 2 days learning the terrain. The SUV didn't. It was built for highways and corporate parking lots, not backcountry extraction. At a particularly tight switchback, Cala accelerated through tires, finding purchase on the inside edge. The SUV tried to match her speed, slid wide, and had to brake hard to avoid going over the edge. By the time it recovered, Cala had put 3 turns between them. She took a narrow spur road that dead-ended at an old logging camp, circled around, and came back out on a different route entirely. Standard evasion. By the time the SUV figured out they'd lost her, she was already back on the main road, heading the opposite direction. Sentinel watched the whole maneuver without comment. This was familiar territory. Evasion and pursuit. The oldest game in the book. Cala's phone rang. Linnea. I'm at the EPA office in Portland. They're reviewing the documents now. The agent I spoke to went very quiet when he saw the contamination levels. Good quiet or bad quiet? Concerned quiet. He's bringing in a supervisor. They want to send a team to collect water samples from Ironwood tomorrow. Redwood will know the moment EPA vehicles show up. Let them know. This is official now. Federal investigation. They can't make that disappear. They made your father disappear. Silence on the line. Then that was before digital records, before cell phones, before everything was documented 6 ways from Sunday. It's harder to make people vanish now. Harder, not impossible. I know, but we're committed. No turning back. No turning back, Cala agreed. She ended the call and drove back to her property. The tent looked small and temporary against the vast indifference of the forest. She'd been here less than a week, had planned to spend months, maybe years in quiet isolation. Instead, she'd started a war. Sentinel trotted to the tent entrance and stopped. His body went rigid. Alert posture. Cala's hand moved automatically to her hip. Still no weapon. Still not armed. But her body remembered the weight of a sidearm, the comfort of having lethal options. She approached slowly, saw what Sentinel had detected. Her tent had been searched. Not obviously. Nothing destroyed. But her gear had been moved. Someone had been through her belongings looking for something. On her sleeping bag, another business card. Harlan Thorne. Same message as the bunker. We can reach you anywhere. But underneath the card, something else. A newspaper clipping. Yellowed. Dated August 1993. The article about Dr. Whitmore's disappearance. But this copy had been annotated in red ink. One sentence circled, Mrs. Whitmore reported her husband had been suffering from severe depression in recent weeks. And in the margin in neat handwriting, careful, depression can be contagious. Cala felt ice settle in her gut. This was a direct threat, not against her, against Linnea. They were suggesting that if Linnea kept pushing, she might suffer the same fate as her father. Another tragic case of depression and disappearance. She pulled out her phone, called Linnea. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. 3rd time. Voicemail. Cala's pulse spiked. She texted, "Where are you? Check in ASAP. 60 seconds passed. No response. She was reaching for her keys when her phone buzzed. Text from Linnea. Still at EPA, meeting running long. Phone was on silent. I'm fine. Cala exhaled slowly, forced her heart rate down. This was the point. Keep her off balance. Make her jump at shadows. Psychological warfare. She texted back, when you leave, don't go home. Find a hotel. Public place. Pay cash. You think they'll try something? I think they just broke into my tent to leave a threatening note about depression, so yes. Okay, I'll be careful. Cala sat on the ground outside her tent, Sentinel beside her, and watched the sun descend toward the ridge. In another life, this would have been peaceful. The kind of mountain solitude people paid money to experience. Now it felt like sitting in a sniper's kill zone waiting for the shot. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She answered without speaking. Commander Vance? Harlan Thorne's voice was smooth as expensive whiskey. I hope you found my messages. Breaking and entering. Theft? Intimidation. You're racking up federal charges. Am I interesting? I haven't broken anything, entered anywhere I wasn't invited, or stolen property that wasn't already abandoned. As for intimidation, I'm simply ensuring you have all the information necessary to make informed decisions. Like the information that you're threatening Linnea Whitmore. I'm not threatening anyone, I'm observing patterns. Ms. Whitmore has spent 31 years obsessing over her father's death. That kind of obsession can be unhealthy. I'd hate to see her follow in his footsteps. Cala's grip on the phone tightened. If anything happens to her, you'll what, Commander? You're a retired veteran living in a tent on 40 acres of contaminated land. You have no authority, no resources, no backup. You're fighting an entity with unlimited legal counsel and the patience to bury you in litigation for the next decade. I have the truth. Truth is expensive. Justice is expensive. Can you afford either one? The EPA is investigating. You can't stop that. Can I? The EPA has been investigating Redwood Industries on and off for 40 years. Know how many fines we've paid? 3. Total value $600,000. We spent more than that on last year's Christmas party. Investigations come and go. Redwood remains. Sentinel growled, low, continuous. Cala stood up. What do you want, Thorne? I want you to leave. Sell me your land, take your dog, disappear. You came here to hide from something, didn't you? Iraq, I believe. Some unfortunate incident with an IED. 2 casualties. Your fault, according to the after-action report. Her blood went cold, Frenton. That report was classified, eyes only. No one outside Naval Special Warfare should have access to it. How did you come? Redwood has been operating in sensitive industries for 70 years, Commander. We have relationships, connections. We know how to access information when necessary. And we know how to use it. That's a threat. That's a fact. We know about Petty Officer Sarah Brennan. We know about Sergeant Mike Torres. We know you ignored your dog's alert and ordered the breach anyway in Ramadi 2017. We know you've been carrying that guilt for 2 years, drowning in it. Kala's breathing had gone shallow. Memories flashing, the compound in Ramadi, Sentinels alert, her decision to push forward anyway, the explosion, the screaming, Sarah's face as the light left her eyes. We also know, Thorne continued, that the official story says equipment failure, not command failure. Your reputation is intact. Your retirement benefits are intact. Everything is intact as long as that classified report stays classified. The implication was clear. Push Redwood and the report goes public. Her career, her honor, everything she'd tried to preserve would be destroyed. But it doesn't have to be that way, Thorne said gently. Take the money, leave Ironwood, let the past stay buried. Everyone wins. Except the 800 people drinking poison water. They've been drinking it for 39 years. A few more won't matter. Most of them will die of old age before the cancer gets them. That's just statistics. Sentinel's growl deepened. He was staring toward the road, toward movement Kala couldn't see yet. I need an answer, Commander. 24 hours. After that, things get complicated. The call ended. Kala stood in the gathering darkness, phone in her hand, everything she'd run from catching up at once. She could leave, take the money, disappear again, find somewhere even more remote. Let Ironwood and its dying population and its buried secrets fade into someone else's problem. Or she could stay, fight, risk everything, including the fragile peace she'd built with her guilt. Sentinel stationed himself beside her, a solid reminder she wasn't alone. She looked down at him. I ignored you once, got people killed. I won't ignore you again. If you're telling me to stay, his tail gave one deliberate sweep. Then we stay. She picked up Thorne's business card, his threatening newspaper clipping, and photographed both. Sent them to Linnea with a message. Document everything. We're past the point of backing down. Then she did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She called her old commanding officer. The phone rang 3 times. A voice answered gravelly from too many years of cigarettes and shouting. This better be important. Captain Rhodes, it's Kala Vance. Silence. Then, Jesus, Vance, I heard you fell off the grid. Didn't expect to hear from you again. I need a favor. You've got 30 seconds before I hang up. There's a corporate consultant named Harlan Thorne, works for Redwood Industries. He has access to my classified after-action report from Ramadi, the one about the IED incident. Rhodes went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Become dangerous. That report is sealed. Level 3 classification. No one outside the command structure should have access. He quoted from it, verbatim, which means someone with clearance leaked it. Or he's bluffing. He knew details. Petty Officer Brennan's name, Sergeant Torres, the exact nature of the equipment versus command failure debate. That's not public information. Son of a bitch. Rhodes breathed heavily into the phone. You want me to investigate? I want you to lock it down. Whatever clearance Thorne thinks he has, revoke it, and find out who leaked it in the first place. That'll take time, maybe weeks. I've got 24 hours before Thorne releases it anyway. I'm fighting a corporate cover-up of environmental contamination. He's threatening to destroy my reputation if I don't back down. You're fighting a corporation, Rhodes laughed, not happy. Impressed. Of course you are. You never could leave well enough alone. Will you help? Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah, I'll help, but Vance, if this blows back on the Navy, it won't. This is civilian, personal. I'm just asking you to protect classified information from unauthorized access, which happens to benefit you, which happens to be your job. Rhodes chuckled. Still got that edge? Good. You'll need it if you're going up against corporate lawyers. I'll make some calls, no promises. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. And Vance, whatever you're doing out there, be careful. The military will protect its own, but only so far. You're retired. That limits what I can do. Understood. She ended the call and looked at Sentinel. We just burned a bridge. Can't go back now even if we wanted to. The night settled in fully. No moon, stars thick overhead, the kind of darkness that pressed close. Calla built a small fire not for warmth but for light, for the psychological comfort of seeing what was around her. Sentinel lay at the edge of the firelight facing outward on watch. At midnight, headlights appeared on the road below, moving slowly, searching. The black SUV making another pass. Calla didn't hide, didn't move, just sat by her fire visible and defiant. The SUV stopped, headlights illuminating her position. Message delivered, we know where you are. She raised her coffee mug in a mock salute. The headlights held for another 30 seconds, then the SUV drove away. Sentinel's ears tracked the sound until it faded completely. They're going to escalate, Calla said quietly. Tomorrow when I don't take their offer, they'll move from intimidation to action. Sentinel's tail thumped once. He understood, had been in enough firefights to know when the shooting was about to start. Calla pulled out her phone, opened her notes app and started typing. Everything she knew, everything she'd found, every threat, every piece of evidence, every connection. If something happened to her, this record would survive. She sent it to 3 email addresses. Linnea, Captain Rhodes, and a journalist at the Washington Post she'd worked with once, years ago, on a story about veteran suicides. Insurance. At 2 a.m. her phone buzzed. Text from Patricia Morrison, the woman from the diner. 17 people willing to testify. Medical records ready. Cancer diagnoses, unexplained illnesses, death certificates. All long-term Ironwood residents. All using the contaminated wells. Calla texted back, can you get them somewhere safe away from town? My sister has a church in Bend, 2 hours away. We can meet there tomorrow. Do it. Bring copies of everything. Originals stay secured somewhere Redwood can't reach. Understood. The pieces were falling into place. EPA investigation. Federal evidence. Witness testimony. Medical records. The case was building. But so was the danger. At 4 a.m. Sentinel stood abruptly, alert posture, facing the forest. Calla was on her feet instantly, fire extinguished, moving to his position. In the distance, orange light flickered. Not headlights, not stars. Fire. She grabbed her binoculars, focused on the ridge. The old logging road that led to the bunker was burning. Not a wildfire. Too controlled. Too deliberate. Someone had set it, destroying the crime scene, burning the evidence. Calla's jaw clenched. They're erasing it. The bunker, the documents that we left behind, everything. But Linnea had the critical evidence already. In Portland, in EPA custody. This was just spite. Just redwoods showing they could destroy whatever they wanted. She watched the fire burn until dawn, Sentinel beside her, both of them understanding that the war had officially begun. When the sun rose, Calla's phone rang. Linnea, the EPA is sending a team today, 3 investigators. They'll be in Ironwood by noon to collect water samples. The bunker's gone. Someone set fire to the logging road last night. Linnea was quiet. Then my father's work, his maps, his notes, everything he left behind. We have the photos, the digital record. It's not gone, just the physical location. It's still vandalism, destruction of evidence, arson. Add it to the list of charges. Are you okay? Calla looked at her tent, her truck. Sentinel watching the horizon. Thought about the threats, the surveillance, the long night of waiting for violence that didn't come. I'm fine. How are you? Angry, scared, determined. My father spent his last days terrified, hiding in that bunker, knowing they were coming for him. And now they've burned it, like they're erasing him all over again. We won't let them erase him. The EPA team, the testimony, the medical records, it all points to the same truth your father died trying to expose. He'll get justice. We'll make sure of it. Promise me something. What? Don't die for this, my father did. I don't need another person I care about sacrificing themselves for the truth. Calla felt something catch in her chest. I'll be careful. That's not a promise. It's the best I can give, Linnea sighed. Fair enough, fair. The EPA team will meet us at the fire station. Noon. I'm driving back now. Don't speed. Don't give them any excuse to pull you over. You sound like my father. He sounded like he knew what he was doing. After the call ended, Calla packed her gear, not to leave, to prepare. She sorted through her supplies, checking what she had that could be useful in a sustained operation. First aid kit, water filtration, emergency rations, flares, radio. Everything from her deployment days kept maintained out of habit. Sentinel watched her work, understanding the rhythm. Preparation before action. The ritual that separated amateurs from professionals. At 11 a.m., Calla drove into Ironwood. The town felt different, tense, like everyone knew something was about to break. The black SUV was parked outside Opal's Rest. Harlan Thorne sat at the counter drinking coffee, perfectly relaxed. He smiled when Calla walked in. "Commander, I trust you've considered my offer." "I have." "And a no." His smile didn't flicker. "Unfortunate. I was hoping you'd be reasonable." "Reasonable would be admitting your company poisoned 800 people and taking responsibility." "That's not how business works." "Then business is going to learn how federal investigations work." Thorne set down his coffee. "The EPA team arriving at noon. I know. We've known since they were assigned yesterday. We have lawyers already in position to challenge every sample, every test, every conclusion. This will drag on for years. You know that, right?" "I know justice takes time. Justice takes money. Do you have money, Commander? Because we have unlimited amounts. We'll bury you in legal fees before you ever see a courtroom." Patricia Morrison entered the diner, saw Calla, saw Thorne. Her expression hardened. "Mr. Thorne," she said coldly. "Mrs. Morrison, how lovely to see you. I heard about your husband. Such a tragedy." "You knew him." "I know everyone in Ironwood. Redwood takes care of its people." "Your company killed him." The diner went silent. Every conversation stopped. Thorne's smile finally faded. "That's a serious accusation." "Commander Vance showed me the evidence. The water contamination, the cancer rates, 39 years of poison. Tom drank that water every day of his life. And you knew. Your company knew." "I think you're confused, Mrs. Morrison. Perhaps grief is affecting your judgment." "My judgment is fine, and I'm not the only one. 17 of us are willing to testify. We have medical records, death certificates, a pattern of illness that points directly at your contaminated wells." Thorne stood slowly. "You should be very careful about what you say publicly. Defamation is expensive." "So is murder." Calla stepped between them. "Not aggressive, just present. Mrs. Morrison, the EPA team will be here soon. You should gather your group." Patricia nodded, held Thorne's gaze for another moment, then walked out. Thorne turned to Calla. "You're making a mistake. These people, they're not equipped for this fight. They'll crumble under legal pressure. And when they do, when this all falls apart, you'll be left alone. Again. Just like in Ramadi." Sentinel growled. Deep, continuous. The sound he made before attacking. Calla's hand moved to his collar. "Easy." Thorne noticed. Took a small step back. "Your dog doesn't like me." "My dog has excellent judgment." "Does he? Or does he just attack when you're angry, like in Ramadi? When you ignored his alerts because you were too angry to think clearly? Too focused on revenge to make smart choices?" Calla's grip on Sentinel's collar tightened. Not to restrain him, to restrain herself. "I've made my choice, Thorne. You have your answer. What happens next is on you." She walked out, Sentinel at her hip, leaving Thorne alone in the diner with an audience of witnesses who just heard him threaten a woman over her husband's cancer death. Small victories, but they added up. At the fire station, 3 EPA vehicles arrived precisely at noon. Federal investigators in polo shirts and khakis, carrying testing equipment and sample containers. Professional, thorough, unhurried. Linnea met them, handed over the documents from the bunker. Calla watched the lead investigator's face as he read through Dr. Whitmore's findings, saw his expression shift from skeptical to concerned to angry. "This is credible," he said finally. "If these contamination levels are accurate, this is one of the worst cases I've seen." "They're accurate," Linnea said. "My father was thorough. We'll verify, collect our own samples, but based on this preliminary evidence, I'm recommending immediate notification of all residents. They should stop drinking the water until we complete our analysis." Patricia Morrison spoke up. "How long will that take?" 48 hours for initial results, 2 weeks for complete analysis." "And if it's contaminated, what then?" "Emergency water distribution, full investigation into the source, potential criminal charges if we find evidence of knowing contamination." Thorne appeared at the edge of the parking lot, phone to his ear, watching, not interfering, just documenting, building his own case. The EPA team spent 3 hours collecting samples from all 3 wells, photographing, measuring, following protocols that would stand up in court. By 3 p.m. they were done. The lead investigator approached Calla and Linnea. "We'll be in touch within 48 hours. In the meantime, I strongly recommend residents use bottled water. We'll coordinate with the county for emergency distribution." Thank you, Linnea said. After they left, Patricia gathered her group of 17. They stood in the fire station parking lot, a collection of grieving people who'd finally found a target for their anger. What happens now? Someone asked. We wait, Calla said. The EPA will confirm what we already know. Then the real fight begins. Legal action, class action lawsuit, criminal investigation. It's going to take time. We've already lost so much time, so many people. I know, but now you're not alone. Now you have evidence. Now you have allies. That changes everything. One of the men, older, weathered, spoke up. They'll fight back. Redwood. They'll come after us. Probably, which is why you need to stay together. Stay public. Make it impossible for them to make you disappear the way they did Dr. Whitmore. There's power in numbers. Use it. The group dispersed slowly, some returning to their homes, others heading to Patricia's sister's church in Bend, seeking safety and distance. Calla and Linnea stood alone as the sun descended toward the ridge. Do you think we can win this? Linnea asked. I think we can fight it. Winning, that's up to the courts, the EP, the people who have more power than we do. That's not very reassuring. It's honest. Sentinel barked, sharp, alert. Calla turned. Smoke was rising from the direction of her property. Not the bunker this time, somewhere else, closer, her tent. She ran to her truck, Sentinel jumping in beside her. Drove toward her land, with Linnea following. By the time they arrived, the fire had consumed everything. Tent, gear, supplies. Everything she owned reduced to ash and twisted metal. But it wasn't random. The fire was contained, controlled, set deliberately to destroy her possessions without spreading to the forest, professional arson. And there, staked in the ground at the edge of the burn zone, another message. Not a business card this time. A document. Calla pulled it free. Read it. Felt her blood turn to ice. It was her classified after-action report from Ramadi, the one Captain Rhodes was supposed to be protecting. Stamped DE classified with today's date. Forged, obviously. The real report was still sealed, but a good enough fake that it would destroy her reputation if it went public. Attached to it, a note in Thorne's handwriting. Last chance. Leave, or this goes to every news outlet in the country. You have until dawn. Calla stood at the edge of the ash, holding the forged report as the last light bled from the sky. Sentinel leaned into her, a solid reminder that she wasn't alone, even when everything she owned had been reduced to carbon and memory. Linnea approached, carefully reading Calla's expression. What is it? Calla handed her the document. Watched Linnea's face change as she read through the falsified declassification, the detailed account of the Ramadi incident, the command decisions that had led to 2 deaths. This is fake, Linnea said. It has to be. The government doesn't declassify operational reports this fast. Doesn't matter if it's fake. By the time anyone proves it, the damage is done. My reputation destroyed. Every news outlet running stories about the Navy SEAL who got her team killed. My testimony in any case against Redwood becomes worthless because I'm a discredited veteran with PTSD who can't be trusted. So what do we do? Calla looked at the smoking remains of her tent, at the deliberate message Thorne had sent, at the choice being forced on her. We finish this. Tonight. How? They burned my evidence. I burned theirs. Linnea's eyes widened. You're talking about Redwood Industries, the actual facility. Their administrative building, where they keep records. Financial documents. The real data on what they knew and when they knew it. Everything they've spent 39 years hiding. That's breaking and entering. Arson? Federal crimes. So is what they did to your father. So is poisoning 800 people. So is stealing classified military documents. Calla's voice was flat. Operational mode, decisive, stripped of emotion. We're past the point of playing by rules they ignore whenever convenient. Calla, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm choosing. They gave me until dawn. That gives us about 8 hours, enough time if we move fast. Sentinel barked once. Affirmative. Ready. Linnea was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. The Redwood Administrative Building is 15 miles north, built in the 70s. 3 stories. Security cameras at every entrance. You've been there. I've been documenting it for 20 years. I know the layout. The shift changes. When the building is emptiest. She looked up. 2 a.m. night security does rounds every hour. 15-minute window when the 3rd floor is unwatched. You're coming with me, Barn. Someone has to show you where the records are kept, and besides, my father died fighting them. I'm not backing down now. Calla nodded. Respect and recognition. Linnea had been fighting this war longer than Calla had known it existed. They drove to Linnea's house in convoy. Inside, Linnea pulled out files, blueprints obtained through public records, requests, photographs taken over decades of careful surveillance. Third floor, northeast corner, Linnea said, spreading the blueprints across her research table. Executive offices, that's where they'd keep the sensitive files. Contamination reports, legal strategy, communications about the cover-up. Digital or physical? Both. Redwood is old school. They keep paper trails because they think they can control them better than digital. Easier to shred a document than delete a file. Calla studied the layout, fire exits, stairwells, camera blind spots. It was a soft target compared to the compound she'd breached in Iraq. Corporate security wasn't designed to stop military operators. We'll need tools, she said. Lockpicks, flashlights, something to carry documents. I have a scanner, portable. Can digitize documents on site and upload them to cloud storage. That way, even if they catch us, the evidence is already out. Good. What about the security system? Analog cameras. Record to a server in the basement. If we can get to that server, we can erase the footage. Or we can just move faster than they can respond. At midnight, they assembled their gear. Dark clothing, soft-soled shoes. Tools packed in a backpack designed to be silent. Sentinel wore his tactical harness, the one from deployment days, matte black and stripped of any reflective material. Calla checked her watch. We go in at 01:45. Gives us 15 minutes to reach the third floor, locate the files, and get out before the next security round. What if something goes wrong? Then we improvise. They drove north with headlights off, using moonlight and memory to navigate the logging roads that paralleled the main highway. The Redwood Industries complex appeared as a dark shape against darker forest, 3 stories of concrete and glass surrounded by a chain-link fence that was more suggestion than barrier. Calla parked a quarter-mile away in a turnout hidden from the road. They approached on foot, Sentinel ranging ahead, silent as smoke. The fence was 8 feet tall, no barbed wire, designed to keep out curious locals, not determined infiltrators. Calla scaled it in seconds, dropped to the other side, and caught the backpack Linnea tossed over. Linnea followed, slower but competent. The building loomed ahead. Most windows were dark. A few offices on the second floor showed light, someone working late or forgotten. The main entrance glowed with security lighting. They circled to the east side, where service doors led to a loading dock. Linnea pointed to a camera mounted above the door. That one sweeps every 30 seconds. We have to time it. They waited, watched the camera track left, then right, then left again. Predictable, mechanical. No human operator watching in real time. On the next sweep, as the camera tracked right, they moved. 5 seconds to cross the open space. 3 seconds to reach the door. 2 seconds for Calla to work the lock while the camera completed its arc. The lock was commercial grade. Decent, but not military. Calla had it open in 40 seconds. They slipped inside as the camera swept back. Darkness swallowed them. The interior smelled like floor wax and filtered air. Emergency exit signs provided the only light, casting everything in red. A stairwell door stood to their left. Linnea led the way, moving with the confidence of someone who'd visualized this road 1,000 times. Third floor. The hallway was carpeted, absorbing sound. Doors lined both sides, nameplates identifying executives whose salaries probably exceeded Ironwood's entire tax base. At the northeast corner, a door marked records, authorized personnel only. Locked. But this lock was older, easier. Calla had it open in 20 seconds. Inside the room was exactly what Linnea had predicted. Floor-to-ceiling filing cabinets, bankers' boxes stacked against walls. Decades of documentation that Redwood considered too sensitive to digitize. Linnea pulled out her scanner and went to work. Opened drawers, methodically photographing everything, the scanner's soft beep the only sound. Calla kept watch at the door, Sentinel beside her, both of them attuned to footsteps. Voices, any indication they'd been detected. Minutes ticked by. Linnea worked through drawer after drawer. Water quality reports from the 80s. Internal memos discussing contamination levels. Legal strategies for avoiding EPA enforcement. Communications with state officials that reeked of influence and payoffs. Got something, Linnea whispered. Memo from 1993, CEO to legal department. Subject line: Whitmore situation. She scanned it quickly, face illuminated by the screen. Read aloud in a voice tight with controlled fury. Dr. Whitmore has become untenable. His latest round of testing confirms TCE levels we cannot explain away. Recommend immediate intervention before he files official report. Legal advises we have 48 hours. Security team is prepared to implement Protocol 7. What's Protocol 7? I don't know, but it's dated August 18th, 1993, 2 days before my father disappeared. She kept scanning, found another document. This one handwritten notes on redwood letterhead. Whitmore neutralized, vehicle staged at Forest Service Road 47, local sheriff cooperative. Story is depression and suicide. Wife believes it. Daughter too young to question. Buried his research in the old disposal site. No one will look there. Linnea's hands shook as she scanned it. They wrote it down. They actually documented murdering him. Arrogance, Calla said. They never thought anyone would see these files. Her hand froze on the next folder. Inside was a photograph she'd never seen. Her father, alive, dated September 1993, 1 month after his supposed death. In the photo, Silas Whitmore sat in what looked like a medical facility. Restraints on his wrists, eyes hollow. Behind him, a man in a suit, young Harlan Thorne, maybe 25 years old, holding a clipboard. On the back, handwritten Protocol 7. Subject Whitmore, Cognitive Restructuring Facility, Idaho. Do not terminate. Long-term containment approved. Calla's blood went cold. They didn't kill him in August. They kept him alive, Linnea whispered. Imprisoned somewhere. For how long? Another document. Medical logs, dated 1993 to 2004. 11 years, Calla said. They held him for 11 years before he died. Linnea's hands shook as she scanned it. That means he was alive when I was 19. When I graduated high school. When I got married. He was alive, and I thought, we'll find where they held him, Calla said. We'll bring him home. Sentinel's ears swiveled. He'd heard something. Calla held up a hand, listened. Footsteps. Distant. Coming from the stairwell. Security round, she whispered. Early. They had maybe 90 seconds before the guard reached the third floor. Linnea kept scanning, racing through documents. We need to go, Calla said. Not yet, there's more. Financial records, payments to officials, evidence of bribery. We're out of time. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Linnea grabbed one more file, scanned frantically. The guard's radio crackled in the hallway. Third floor clear, moving to wait, records room doors open. Calla pulled Linnea away from the scanner. Now! They moved to the window. Calla checked the drop. 30 feet to a loading dock roof. Survivable if you knew how to land. The door behind them opened. A security guard, mid-50s, overweight, startled. Hey, stop! Calla opened the window. Jump! Linnea looked at the drop, looked at Calla. I can't. Yes, you can. Bend your knees. Roll when you hit. Go! The guard was reaching for his radio, calling it in. Linnea climbed through the window, hesitated for one heartbeat, then dropped. Hit the roof below with a thud and a cry of pain, but kept moving. Sentinel jumped next, landed perfectly, tactical training overriding the distance. Calla followed, felt the brief moment of free fall, the rush of air, then impact. Her knees absorbed it, body rolling, distributing force. No injury, just adrenaline. Behind her, the guard shouted into his radio. Break in, third floor. Subjects fleeing toward loading dock. They ran, across the roof, down a fire escape over the fence. Sirens were already wailing in the distance. Ironwood's volunteer fire department doubling as emergency response. They reached Calla's truck and drove away without headlights, navigating by moonlight and instinct. Didn't turn the lights on until they were 3 miles away, on a different road, headed in a different direction. Linnea was breathing hard, clutching her ankle. I think I sprained it. You'll live. Did you get everything uploaded? Most of it. 20 years of evidence, contamination reports. The memo about my father, the photo proving they kept him alive for 11 years. Financial records showing bribes to county officials. It's all in the cloud. Multiple servers. Encrypted. They can't erase it. Then we won. Did we? They'll know it was us. They'll press charges. Let them. Breaking and entering to expose murder and environmental crimes. I'll take that trial. Calla's phone rang, unknown number. She answered on speaker. Harlan Thorne's voice no longer smooth. Angry now, raw. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Did I just collect evidence of your company murdering Dr. Silas Whitmore and holding him prisoner for 11 years? Silence. Well, then you have nothing that will stand up in court. Everything you took is inadmissible. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Maybe, but it's public now. Uploaded to 3 news organizations. The EPA, the FBI. Even if a court can't use it, the public can see it, and that's all that matters. You don't understand what you've done. Redwood Industries employs 12,000 people across 4 states. You just jeopardized all of them. Your company jeopardized them when it chose profit over people. I just made sure everyone knows. This isn't over. You're right, it's not. Because at dawn, I'm not leaving. I'm staying, and I'm testifying. And so are 17 other people who've lost family to your contaminated water. You wanted a war thorn. You got one. She ended the call. Linnea was staring at her. What happens now? Now we get you somewhere safe. Then we wait for the EPA results. When they confirm contamination when they start criminal proceedings, we make sure everyone knows about those documents we found. Redwood will claim they're forged. Probably, but the paper will be authentic. The handwriting will match executives who work there. The dates will align with your father's disappearance. It's not perfect evidence, but it's damning circumstantial. They drove to Patricia Morrison's sister's church in Bend, arrived at 3 a.m. to find 17 people still awake waiting for news. Patricia met them at the door. We heard sirens, heard something happened at the Redwood building. We found evidence, Linnea said, documents proving they knew about the contamination, proving they killed my father no worse. They kept him alive, tortured him for 11 years in some facility in Idaho, then let him die. Murmurs ran through the group, anger, validation, grief finding a target. What do we do, someone asked. We wait 48 hours, Calla said. The EPA will confirm what we already know. Then we go public, press conference, media coverage. We make this impossible to ignore. And if Redwood retaliates, they already have, burned my property, threatened us, broke into my tent. They're out of subtle options. Anything they do now just proves we're right. She turned to Linnea. You should stay here. Safety in numbers. I'm going back to Ironwood. Why? Because someone needs to be there when the EPA results come in, and because I'm not hiding anymore. The drive back took 2 hours. Dawn was breaking as Calla reached her property, Sentinel beside her, both of them exhausted but alert. The burned remains of her tent looked worse in daylight. Everything she'd owned reduced to twisted metal and ash. But she felt lighter somehow. Unburdened. Like she'd finally stopped carrying weight that was never hers to bear. She set up a basic camp using supplies from her truck's emergency kit. Tarp for shelter, sleeping bag, water, food. Enough to function. At 8 a.m. her phone rang. Captain Rhodes. Vance, what the hell did you do, sir? I've got Pentagon attorneys asking me about declassified reports that don't exist. I've got a corporate lawyer claiming you broke into private property. I've got the FBI asking about environmental crimes in Oregon. You want to explain to... It's complicated. I've got time. She told him everything. The bunker, Dr. Whitmore, the contamination, the threats, the break-in, the evidence. Rhodes was quiet for a long time. Then, Jesus, Vance, you don't do anything small, do you? No, sir. The report they're threatening to release, it's still classified. I've confirmed that. Anyone who publishes it is committing a federal crime. That should protect you. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm doing this because it's right, not because I approve of your methods. Breaking into private property. That's not how we operate. With respect, sir, when the system is rigged, sometimes you have to operate outside it. That's a dangerous philosophy. So is letting corporations murder whistleblowers. Another pause. Fair point. Listen, I've contacted some people, JAG attorneys who specialize in environmental cases. They're interested in your testimony. Said if the EPA confirms contamination, this could be one of the biggest corporate liability cases in decades. How big? Billions. Criminal charges for executives. Potential prison time. Complete remediation of the contaminated site. Compensation for victims. This is a company killer if you can prove intent. We have documents proving intent, memos discussing neutralizing Dr. Whitmore, financial records of bribes, all uploaded and distributed, obtained illegally, obtained necessarily. Rhodes sighed. You're going to make one hell of a witness, assuming you survive long enough to testify. I will. Vance corporations this size don't go down easy. They have resources you can't imagine, legal teams, PR firms, politicians in their pocket. This fight could take years. I have time. And if they come after you physically, I mean. Calla looked at Sentinel, who was watching the road, always watching. Then they'll regret it. That's what I'm afraid of. Try not to kill anyone, Commander. It complicates the testimony. No promises, sir. At noon, the EPA called. Linnea, Calla, Patricia Morrison, all on a conference line. The lead investigator's voice was grim. We've completed preliminary analysis of the water samples. I need you to understand these are initial results. Full analysis will take 2 weeks. But what we found is severe enough that I'm required to issue immediate public notification. How bad? Linnea asked. Trichloroethylene levels of 42,000 parts per billion in well 1, 38,000 in well 2, 35,000 in well 3. EPA safe limit is 100. You're looking at contamination levels 400 times the acceptable threshold. Silence on the line, the kind of silence that comes when worst fears are confirmed. We're issuing an immediate order. All 3 wells are to be shut down effective immediately. Emergency water distribution begins today. County Health Department is being notified. This is a public health crisis. What about criminal investigation? Calla asked. That's above my pay grade. But I'm recommending the EPA's Criminal Investigation Division get involved. Based on the documents you provided, Ms. Whitmore, there's clear evidence of knowing contamination and cover-up. That triggers criminal statutes. How long before charges are filed? Months, maybe years. These cases are complex, but they're also winnable, especially with the documentation you obtained. After the call ended, Calla sat in her makeshift camp and let the magnitude settle. 847 people, 39 years. How many had died? How many had suffered? How many were dying right now from cancers that could have been prevented? Her phone buzzed with incoming messages. News alerts. The EPA's announcement was public. Media was descending on Ironwood. By 2 p.m., 3 news vans were parked on Main Street. Reporters interviewing residents. Cameras filming the now closed wells. The story spreading like wildfire. Patricia Morrison called. They want statements. From us, the victims. Are you ready for this? Are you fo? I've been ready for 31 years. At 4 p.m., they held a press conference outside the fire station. 17 victims, Linnea Whitmore, Calla Vance, Patricia Morrison speaking for her dead husband. Cameras everywhere. Questions shouted. Microphones thrust forward. Patricia spoke first. Voice steady, eyes clear. My husband, Tom Morrison, died 3 years ago of kidney cancer. He was 62 years old. Healthy his whole life until the day he wasn't. The doctors couldn't explain it. But now we know. He was poisoned by water he trusted, in a town he loved, by a company that knew and chose profit over people. Linnea next. My father, Dr. Silas Whitmore, died trying to expose this contamination in 1993. Redwood Industries didn't just murder him, they kept him alive, imprisoned him for 11 years in a facility designed to break his mind. I have documents proving it, photographs, medical logs. This wasn't negligence, this was deliberate corporate torture and murder. Then Calla. I'm Lieutenant Commander Calla Vance, U.S. Navy, retired. I came to Ironwood looking for peace. I found a war crime disguised as business as usual. These people deserve justice. Dr. Whitmore deserves vindication. And Redwood Industries deserves to answer for 39 years of knowing contamination and 11 years of unlawful imprisonment. The questions came fast, aggressive, probing. Commander Vance, Redwood Industries claims you broke into their facility and stole documents. How do you respond? I respond that breaking and entering to expose murder and torture is a crime I'm willing to be charged with. Ms. Whitmore, do you have proof Redwood held your father prisoner? I have internal documents, photographs of him in restraints dated after his supposed death, medical logs spanning 11 years, handwritten notes from Harlan Thorne himself approving his long-term containment. Mrs. Morrison, what do you want from Redwood? I want them prosecuted. I want them to pay for remediation. I want them to compensate every family they've destroyed. And I want the executives who made these decisions to spend the rest of their lives in prison. The press conference lasted an hour. By the time it ended, the story was national. Cable news picking it up, social media exploding. Ironwood, Oregon population 847, suddenly the center of attention. And with attention came protection. Redwood couldn't make them disappear now. Too many people watching, too many cameras, too much light. That night, Calla received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. A woman's voice, elderly, shaking slightly. Is this Commander Vance? Yes. Who's this? My name is Ellen Whitmore, Silas's widow, Linnea's mother. Moment, Calla sat up straighter. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm glad you called. I saw the news, saw what you found, saw Linnea standing up there talking about her father like she'd finally found answers, like he'd been a prisoner. All those years I thought, her voice broke. They told me he was dead, depressed, suicidal. I believed them. I was so angry at him for leaving us, for abandoning Linnea, and he was alive, suffering for 11 years. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Whitmore. I need you to know something. I need Linnea to know. I'm ready to fight now. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. I owe Silas that much. I owe her that much. She knows, Mrs. Whitmore. She's never blamed you. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her we're going to bring him home, properly this time. After the call, Calla walked outside. Sentinel joined her, and together they looked at the stars spread across the Oregon sky. We did it, boy, she said quietly. We brought the truth into the light. Sentinel's tail wagged, slow, satisfied, but the fight wasn't over. Not yet. Over the next 3 days, events accelerated. The FBI opened a criminal investigation into Redwood Industries. EPA teams descended on Ironwood to conduct comprehensive testing. Water trucks arrived distributing clean water to residents. The National Guard set up a temporary distribution center, and every day more victims came forward, more medical records, more stories of unexplained illness, more evidence of a town slowly poisoned. On the fourth day, the first arrests were made. 3 Redwood executives, charged with conspiracy, environmental crimes, and kidnapping related to Dr. Whitmore's imprisonment. Harlan Thorne was arrested attempting to board a flight to Costa Rica, charged with obstruction of justice accessory to kidnapping and conspiracy to commit murder. His bail was set at $5 million. A week after the press conference, federal agents raided the Cognitive Restructuring Facility in Boise, Idaho. They found records of 14 other subjects held between 1985 and 2010. Scientists, journalists, activists, anyone who threatened corporate interests. Dr. Silas Whitmore's remains were identified through dental records. He died in 2004, 21 years after his supposed disappearance, buried in an unmarked grave behind the facility. Linnea brought him home, buried him properly in Ironwood beside the memorial to the victims. At the funeral, 300 people attended, a town saying goodbye to a hero they'd never known they had. Ellen Whitmore stood at the grave supported by her daughter, both of them crying, both of them finally able to grieve properly. She placed a hand on the headstone. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I didn't keep fighting, but Linnea did, and she found you. You can rest now. 2 months later, Redwood Industries filed for bankruptcy. The company was dissolved, assets liquidated to pay victims. The final settlement, $400 million for water remediation, $600 million for victim compensation, and criminal trials for 12 executives. Harlan Thorne's trial was scheduled for the following spring. Linnea would be there front row. Patricia Morrison's nonprofit grew to serve contaminated communities across 12 states. She became a national advocate, testifying before Congress about corporate accountability. Ellen Whitmore lived to see the first executive sentenced, 12 years in federal prison. She died peacefully that winter. Her last words to Linnea, your father would be so proud. And Calla Vance stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she'd finally found a mission worth staying for. She bought a small house on the edge of Ironwood. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, porch, yard for Sentinel. She started consulting with other communities facing environmental contamination, using her military experience to help people navigate corporate intimidation, teaching them how to organize, how to fight. Linnea wrote a book about her father, The Last Warning: One Man's Fight Against Corporate Murder. It became a bestseller. The foreword was written by Calla Vance. On a quiet evening in November, as the first snow dusted the ridgeline, Calla sat on her porch with Sentinel beside her. A truck pulled up, Garrett Calloway Finn in the passenger seat. Commander Vance, Garrett called. Got a minute? Sure. Finn climbed out, walking without a limp now, ankle healed. Mom wanted me to give you this. He handed Calla a drawing, crude but heartfelt. A woman and a dog standing on a mountain. Stars overhead. Underneath, in careful letters, thank you for staying. Calla felt her throat tighten. Tell your mom thank you. After they left, she sat holding the drawing. Sentinel pressed against her leg. You know what, boy, she said. For the first time in a long time, I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Sentinel's tail thumped. Agreement, satisfaction, home. The stars came out, bright and clear, the same stars that had watched over Ramadi, over every battlefield Calla had ever fought on. But tonight, they didn't feel like witnesses to failure. They felt like witnesses to something else. Redemption. The radio on her porch crackled. Emergency frequency. Old habit to keep it on. This is Ironwood Volunteer Fire. Missing hiker reported near Forest Service Road, 47. Anyone in the area able to assist? Calla stood, looked at Sentinel. You up for this? He was already moving toward the truck. She grabbed her pack. checked her gear, called dispatch. This is Calavance. I'm 10 minutes out. I have a trained K9. We're en route. As she drove through the night, sentinel alert in the passenger seat, Calla thought about the path that had led here. The mistakes, the losses, the guilt she'd carried like a stone. And she thought about Sarah Brennan, who'd died because Calla ignored Sentinel's warning. I hear you now, she said quietly. Every time. I promise. Sentinel turned his head, looked at her. Understanding passing between them that went deeper than words. They reached the trailhead. Other searchers were gathering, organizing. Calla joined them. Sentinel already tracking nose to the ground. 2 hours later, they found the hiker. Hypothermic, but alive. Sentinel had tracked through conditions that would have defeated human searchers. The hiker's family thanked her, asked how to repay her. Stay, Calla said. When things get hard, when it would be easier to leave, stay. Fight for this place. It's worth it. Driving home as dawn broke, Sentinel asleep in the passenger seat, Calla felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not peace exactly, not forgiveness, but purpose, direction. The sense that every choice that had led here, even the mistakes, even the failures, had been necessary. She pulled into her driveway as the sun cleared the ridge. The house looked small but solid, permanent, a place she could defend, a place worth defending. Sentinel woke as she parked, stretched, looked at her with those amber eyes that had seen everything and judged nothing. We're home, boy, she said. Finally. His tail wagged, slow, satisfied, complete. And somewhere in the forest where the bunker had been, where Dr. Silas Whitmore had made his last stand before 11 years of suffering, the wind moved through the pines like a voice saying thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. Thank you for finishing what I started. The truth refuses to stay buried, and some guardians refuse to quit. Epilogue. Voiceover. Sometimes miracles don't arrive as thunder and lightning. Sometimes they arrive as a boy that refuses to leave, as a daughter who refuses to forget, as a stranger who refuses to look away. Dr. Silas Whitmore chose truth over safety. It cost him everything, his freedom, 11 years of his life, his chance to watch his daughter grow up. But his evidence hidden in concrete and darkness waited for someone brave enough to find it. Linnea Whitmore chose persistence. 31 years of searching, never giving up, never forgetting, never letting the world erase her father. And a soldier chose to listen to a dog who knew something was wrong, to instincts she'd learned to trust again, to the quiet voice inside that says, stay and fight, when everything else screams, run. 847 people in Ironwood, Oregon now have clean water. 12 executives face prison time. 14 victims of illegal detention have been identified and honored. And one man buried in an unmarked grave for 20 years finally came home. Not because the system worked, because people refused to let it fail. We face moments every day when silence is easier than truth, when leaving is safer than staying, when forgetting is more comfortable than remembering. What truth are you being called to face? What fight are you being called to stay for? If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below. What moment in this story stayed with you? Subscribe for more stories about loyalty, courage, and the long fight for justice. May God bless you and keep you. May He guide your steps when you're afraid to move forward. May He place loyal companions beside you when the path is dark. And may you have the courage to stay when everything in you wants to run. In the name of truth, justice, and the guardians who refuse to quit. Amen.